Good evening to the Silicon Valley Entrepreneur, a series of conversations with entrepreneurs and the investors that fund them. I'm Chris Gill, President and CEO of SVAs, the Silicon Valley Association of Startup Entrepreneurs, the largest and fastest growing not-for-profit organization supporting entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley. Today I'm delighted to have with me Trevor Cornwell, the founder and CEO of Appbackr, a company that not only looks as if it's going to have a terrific future, but also was the winner of a recent program that I ran in conjunction with Cambridge West Ventures for raising seed capital. And Trevor and Appbackr recently received, as shortly ago as half an hour in fact, checks to the tune of $50,000 to fund the company going forward. So Trevor, good to see you here. Thank you for coming along.
Thanks, Chris. It's great to be here.
So can you tell us a little bit about how Appbackr came to be and what it does?
Yeah. So Appbackr is a wholesale digital marketplace and for iPhone apps. And it allows somebody to come in and to make a purchase of a number of iPhone apps, 1,000, 10,000, whatever the number is. The developer gets immediate money. And then when the app sells on the iTunes store, the wholesale purchaser gets his money back plus makes a profit. I think the way that the idea started, there's sort of like all these things, a number of different points. One of them was reading an article by a fellow named Seth Godin, and he said that everybody's so focused on trying to get money for a venture, which is a long, expensive process, and that people should look at product financing as a way for getting money for their ideas. And it really got me thinking that the iPhone market is huge. It's a $3 billion industry, and it lacks one of the basic parts of the infrastructure of a normal market, which is a wholesale market, a place where the manufacturer can sell, get money right away, and then that wholesale buyer takes some of the risk between the manufacturer and the actual retail sale. And it occurred to me that for digital goods, there needed to be a wholesale marketplace, and that's what really gave birth to the idea of Appbackr.
So why wouldn't application developers just go and raise venture capital as many other startups do? What's the reason for them not doing that?
Yeah, you know, there's a huge revolution taking place, and it's happening in Silicon Valley as sort of ground zero. Developers are coming up with great ideas, and for $5,000, $10,000, they can bring their idea to life. And that means that they can create it, and they can get into a marketplace like the iPhone market very quickly. But that $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, while it's small for a venture capitalist, I mean, the legal costs would overwhelm that, still need some money. And you know, the options for them are fairly limited. You can put it on a credit card. It's a little bit more difficult to do that today, and quite risky. And this wholesale marketplace idea allows you to spread the risk among a number of different buyers, and then each of those buyers becomes a value-added marketer for your idea. So not only are they bringing you instant money, but they're also able to direct traffic, and they have a vested interest in doing it because they make a profit every time one of their apps sells on the marketplace.
Okay, so the main reason for doing it is because the app developers weren't looking for enough money to interest angels and VCs. They need to be more in the tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions. Yeah,
that's right. That's exactly right. I mean, it's just they need too small amount of money to make it worthwhile. And you know, the threshold is moving down. I mean, VCs will look at doing, you know, as small an amount as $50,000, but you still need to have the prospect that you're going to need significantly more than that to really be of interest to a VC. And you know, app developers can go out, bring an idea to market. One app may sell really well, and they may decide to do another and another, but it's probably not until they get through that initial process that they're really thinking about the second and third apps. They probably don't have a business plan beyond the application that they're creating. And you know, of course, the iPhone market and others that are out there, Android and others, give the developer the opportunity to receive money from selling their app, which is something that didn't exist a while ago. So the idea of having financing tied to the product rather than the long horizon of a venture is very appealing, I think.
Now, has this had to go through any sort of qualification by governing bodies overlooking funding, or because it's simply a wholesale market, is it just a simple buy and sell?
Yeah, so we spent a lot of time looking at that, and we've really tried to structure it as a commercial relationship. I mean, you are buying a good, you're buying the queue number that will eventually get sold in the iTunes store, and we've structured it as a commercial relationship between buyer and seller. One of the things that I really enjoy are taking ideas that exist in the physical world and bringing them to the digital world. Mm-hmm. And this same exact process exists for tangible goods like tables and chairs. Somebody comes and buys a bunch of those chairs, holds them until they eventually can be sold in the retail market. We're just copying that for digital goods.
Okay, that's a very interesting model, and would simplify getting early money for these relatively modest amounts, make it much simpler to do that. So kudos for you for coming up with it. Now, can we go back a little bit and talk a little bit about your history and how you got here? Because you've done a number of startups, at least one of which has been nothing whatsoever to do with this, I know. So can you tell us a bit about your background and how you got here?
Yeah, I think like a lot of entrepreneurs, we sort of vacillate between trying to come up with big ideas and then looking for little wedges. And I think a lot of times it's the wedges that are really the most successful. I mean, if you think about people who have been successful in business, a lot of times they're very opportunistic and they found small opportunities to be arbitrageurs in some way or the other. And I suppose I fit into that description. I've started a business called Skyjet a number of years ago, and that was a function of riding a bike every day past an airport, and I used to see all the private business jets sitting there, and realized with some time that nobody knew where they all were at any one time, and the idea of trying to book a jet was a sort of slow, cumbersome process. So I took an idea that existed in the physical world, the Sabre system, which exists for commercial aircraft, and I built the same thing for private business jets. I went around in a rental car to all these small airports and asked the charter operators, would you put into a database when an aircraft isn't flying? And I collected all of this information, so when somebody wanted to come and book a jet, I was the place to come to. And it simplified the process quite a bit. And the business got the attention of Bombardier, which makes trains and planes, and they acquired the company back in 2000. And that was a great process of kind of going from the beginning of an idea to execution to eventual exit. And it was a nice business because everybody made some money from it. Before that, I had started a small media company in Eastern Europe producing radio programming, which I distributed by satellite. And then subsequent to that, and the way that we met was starting a company called Embark-Ons. And that is basically a platform for ideas and resources to connect to each other. And that whole process, I suppose, has led me to starting Appbackr. And even though it's a varied process of ideas, it was going through the challenges and the mental thinking of all of this that led me to come up with a marketplace that created some efficiencies and borrowed from the physical world to help a digital marketplace develop. Okay.
Did Appbackr evolve out of Embark-Ons, or was it a completely separate light bulb that came on?
I think it's a great question, and it's I think it's an answer that I'll have to sort of refine over time, in the sense that part of it was coming up with the frustration again and again and again of working with Embark-Ons and never quite getting the traction. And I think there was one day when I came along and I just sort of took all of the different no's and different forms. And the thing is, for an entrepreneur, is as you know, I mean, the no doesn't always come in somebody sitting across the table from you and saying no. It comes from not returning a phone call or waiting for a while before they respond to an email. And at some point, I just took all of the criticism in what in retrospect was a great way, and took out, I think, in some respects, the very best elements of the idea, and consolidated it down and came up with Appbackr. So in one sense, it's a completely different idea, but in another sense, it was, I don't think it would have been born had I not gone through 2 years of working on Embark-ons.
Okay, that's important, that there was this build up, this, I'd almost say that you, based upon the feedback, you did a pivot.
Yep.
And got to where you found, aha, this is what the customer really wants.
Yes.
So that's a terrific insight to have there. The other thing that you did that was very impressive was you pulled together a team very, very quickly, and you set yourself some very tight deadlines to meet, to get things to happen.
Yeah.
Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah. And I think your description is right. It was a pivot, and it is ultimately listening to what the customer wants, even in something new that hasn't been done before. There is a customer, and when the customer likes it, you know it very quickly. In terms of pulling together the team, yeah, we had a very short deadline. We built Appbackr in 45 days. We started on New Year's Eve, and we had it done on February 14th. And it was incredible. One part of it was we participated in a PayPal challenge, and we were one of the winners of that, which was very nice. But it forced us into a very tight time frame. We had to create the app, have it ready. Originally they said February 7th. They extended it to February 14th. The woman who did the UI was having a baby on February 14th, so we really couldn't play around. And we got the whole app developed in that time frame. And it was very good, too, is there was a voting process as part of the PayPal challenge. So it forced us to market what we were doing and to communicate it very succinctly. So it was like a little mini version of a business. And we had to get all the legal documents, develop the commercial relationship, everything all at once. And I think it's a great model. I mean, people talk about agile development. I mean, this was agile business building. And I mean, if we didn't have the deadline of February 14th, we would be months later still talking about the idea and what features we wanted to add. We had to create a minimally viable product. It's a term you hear a lot. That could survive competition, and I think it's a great way to look at building any business. Make it as tight and short as you can to still fulfill the market need, and it was we were very fortunate to go through that process.
That was a great way to give you a meaningful deadline to aim at. I didn't realize it was just 45 days.
Yeah.
That's kudos to you for doing that, and you were also one of the winners of the PayPal competition there. So again, terrific for you and the team. Going back to the team, how did you pull together that team? Because that's a great commitment to making it succeed, to do that in 45 days. Yeah,
and you're right to focus on that. It's the team came from a lot of different places, and it was people that I had met along the way. I mean, it's a great advantage to being in Silicon Valley. I mean, the talent exists here, and I suppose I could say, collected people along the way, relationships, and when it came time to want to build this, I brought our developer over from India. I had developed a relationship with a really talented UI person who was up in San Francisco, and he was always busy and never had the time to be able to work on a project. And I think in part because this was such a tight time frame, he said that he could do it. The law firms I had gone through, because there are some real legal questions in this, I'd interviewed probably 8 or 9 different law firms. We ended up going with Cooley Goddard, and it was because we had spoken to so many other firms, I sort of knew the questions to ask. And we just, I don't know, I think at one level it was very appealing for people to work on a very tight time frame. I think the challenge was in coming to them and saying, we really can win this. And I remember saying that to the developer who worked on this right from the very beginning. I mean, even though there were 650 original ideas that we were competing against, I just felt like it was a really strong concept, and we just had to, I knew we had to be excellent. And I guess in building the team, I tried to push everybody to say, you're competing against your peers. I mean, for the lawyers, I came to them and said, listen, you're creating a whole new terms of service that hasn't been done before, and rise to the challenge, and they did. To the developers, I said, you're competing against all of these great developers, let's be the best. And everybody did, and it was a very satisfying process to go through.
Okay, so you've got a demonstrable product, you've won the PayPal competition and got some services and cash out of that. You've got $50,000 seed funding from the SVA's Cambridge West Ventures seed funding program. Where's that going to take you to now? What are the next steps now? What are the next milestones?
Yeah, so the exciting part of this now is that we really take it to market, and we're going to hire. We've hired a woman who used to be with Sun, who's head of our developer marketing. Mm-hmm. She's putting together a team of 5 folks who are going to be regional marketing representatives. 3 of them in the Bay Area, 1 in Seattle, 1 in LA. Mm-hmm. We wanted to sort of mix up the marketplaces a little bit, but be close enough that we could drive or fly quickly and relatively inexpensively. And those 5 marketing reps are going to have the job of recruiting apps into our marketplace, because we're like any marketplace. You'll only buy if there's something to buy. So we want to really go out and recruit as many apps as we can. We've set an internal goal to have 250 by the end of the summer. Mm-hmm. And so we hit the ground running with that. And we're going to watch our numbers very, very closely and really try and hit our targets month by month. And there'll always be a little bit of product development that we'll do, but that's going to be a minor expense related to marketing for the iPhone apps, and that's what we're using the $50,000 for. I mean, the $25,000 that we got from PayPal helped to fund the cost of doing the initial coding mm-hmm. for it. $50,000 will pay for some of the development expenses, but most of it will go to marketing the Appbackr service to developers. Okay, and currently this is focused on iPhone apps. Yeah.
Okay, now I was up in Canada recently, and there was a company up there talking about quite complex gaming and how there's a producer process for funding games that looked horribly complicated and didn't leave the developers with an awful lot at the end of the day. Do you see this same wholesale marketplace? Can you take that same approach and apply it to other areas such as games? Do you see that happening at some time in the future?
Yeah, I mean, that's what's so exciting about this model. I mean, I think it can work really well for games. I think it can work for digital books. I think it can work for digital music. The app market's a $3 billion industry. Digital music's a $4.5 billion industry. I mean, mm-hmm. there are really big numbers around it, and the process for getting that early funding is very difficult. But I think even more significantly, the process for enlisting other people to be your affiliates is non-existent. And that's really, at the end of the day, what we're going to be providing. I mean, the little bits of money definitely help, but the directed marketing by people who can profit from it is what's critical. And we're very interested in the gaming market. We're very interested in the iPad market because they're more expensive apps, and our share that we collect goes up as the price of the app goes up. So it's a great market at 99 cents. It's a really great market at when apps start getting to be $10 and $15, which is what games often cost.
Oh, right, yeah. So there's a very different business model there. You're absolutely right. The apps tend to be relatively modest, whereas the games are a lot more expensive.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so do you have a feel for when you might look to go into adjacent markets, or is that still a bit hazy yet?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to use the summer really as the test, and we have a couple of rollouts that we've got. We're going to launch in late May 24th. Then in June at the Apple Developers Conference, we're going to roll out some of these value-added marketing tools that we've been talking about here today, and really focus on major wholesale buyers, because we think there's a whole business around getting institutional wholesale purchasers. I mean, the GameStops of the world to buy apps from our marketplace and then direct traffic, and we're managing the buy and sell part of it, which we're excited about. By July, I think we're going to have some really good data points about whether the marketplace is working. And if it is, then we want to focus at looking at what are our next markets from there. I mean, we're doing a lot of research on it right now to look at the various strengths and weaknesses of our model vis-a-vis other markets. But if we think that there's something, I think September is going to be the time that we're going to really want to start looking at it, because you have to be aggressive in this kind of environment, because our business model will be very exposed, obviously, and if we're going to do something, we need to jump on it.
So this is one of the models that you've got to move quickly and stay ahead of the curve to not get consumed by the people coming behind you. Is that right?
I think that's right, yeah. And I think at the same time you also have to be prudent about not getting into markets where it's more difficult to succeed. I mean, music is, I think, a great example. It's a very appealing marketplace, but it's big, and there are lots of huge competitors. I mean, going back to what we were saying before, I mean, we have a wedge. We have a wedge in a really nice market, the app market, and the app market's growing, and iPad's out there. So there's a case to being very tight and laser focused on this, and not expanding at all. We're going to have to really study it hard and see what kind of response we're getting before we make a move.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. That does indeed make a lot of sense. So will you be expanding the team beyond the business development people that you're going to be recruiting shortly? Will you be building out the developer team? Will you be adding more bells and whistles? What's going to be happening to the product going forward? Yeah,
so I mean, our whole org chart is we have hired a woman who's just graduating from master's program at Stanford, who's going to head up finance operations, which is a critical position. We have the former Sun Startup Essentials executive who's heading up our marketing team. We're going to hire one other person who's going to do product marketing, really listening to the developers and making sure that we properly prioritize what we put into our development queue. We've had one developer full-time. We're now at 1.5 developers. I think we'll stay at that level at least through the summertime. That gives us the ability to add probably about as many features as we can really bring out to the marketplace. And then, if our numbers are good and it looks like our model's working, then we'll really be focusing on growing out the marketplace. Growing out the marketing reps to other markets. Wherever we see some opportunity. I mean, Austin, New York. I mean, some of the others are obvious. And I think there's also an international play in this. A lot of developers in developing markets like India who could find something like this very appealing. But our feeling is that we're really a sales and marketing business, and we've got a product, and we need to be very aggressive about marketing in places where we can have strong growth.
Okay. Is the PayPal channel a key part of this strategy? Because I understand that you're using PayPal as a platform to exchange the monies associated with this. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, PayPal's a great partner for us, and probably most especially, I mean, the API that they have is really great. I mean, it's what enables us to funnel one payment to multiple parties and do it very easily. So I think that there's a lot of growth that will happen on the back of that API, and I think PayPal's been really supportive of us and has helped us to, along with S-Face, to really get out of the gate. And what we're hoping next to come back to them with is a really strong business, and then grow with them from there.
Okay, we're running out of time. It's been terrific talking with you. This has gone far too far. Are there any final words of encouragement or wisdom you could offer to entrepreneurs watching the show?
I think I'd probably key back to the word you used before, Chris. I mean, I think the pivot is really important. I mean, it's you want to hold on to your ideas, but I think it's also important to bring fresh light to them, and to listen and to know when to make some turns. Okay, and I'd add to that resilience. You've been very unassuming about the startups that you've done. You've been terrifically resilient over the time that I've known you. That's and the startups you've had in the past. So Trevor, it's been terrific to have you here. Thank you. Very much enjoyed it. And so it's thank you and good night from the Silicon Valley Entrepreneur, and look forward to seeing you again next week.